Yeah.
Hello, gang. This is the Rob and Mike show. Welcome. And I put Rob before Mike, obviously, because I'm better looking, even though I'm older. But I'm Rob Coker, and this is Mike Fiorelli.
Hi, everybody. How are we doing today? We're here to start a video series on life in a wheelchair. Both Rob and I are spinal cord injury wheelchair users, and we've seen a lot. We've been through a lot, and we are just wanting to talk a little bit about what it's like to live life in a wheelchair.
And obviously, this, even though we both have spinal cord injuries, it's going to be about every disability. We're going to talk about, eventually blindness and people who are the deaf community and people who have congenital disabilities versus those who are injured. So it's not just going to be this narrow focus.
Right, exactly. I think as we were talking earlier, we thought one of the great starting points, especially with the fact that we're starting this in July,
Sure.
is the fact that July 26th marks the anniversary of the passing of the Americans with Disability Act. So no better month to really begin and kick off a disability-related podcast or recording or whatever we want to call this thing that we're going to do than this particular month.
Sure. July 26th marks the 32nd anniversary of the passage of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. And I had my injury in 1981, so I can do a comparison of what life was like before the ADA versus after the ADA. And I was telling Mike when we were off camera that I had an experience. I was going to Penn State, the Berks campus near Reading, PA, and this was in, like I said, like 1980, 81, around there. And at the time, I couldn't get into the union, okay? And there was no elevator, and there were just steps. And before the injury, obviously it wasn't a problem. But when I came back after my injury, I said, how am I supposed to access the union? And the guy, I think he was a professor, he said to me, well, that's just part of the adjustment. And so you can look at the attitudes prior to the ADA versus after the ADA. And it's not like things just magically became great on the signing of the ADA, but it was a natural evolution, but attitudes did change.
Right, I'm sure that more than likely is not the response you wanted to hear from that professor.
No.
I don't know how, I can't imagine. I know you in your lifetime and me in my lifetime have been very irate at what people have said to us.
Sure.
In different situations. To me, a lot of it is about education. A lot of people are naive or ignorant or whatever word you want to use, and they just don't understand people with disabilities. I think now that here we are 32 years later, I think things have changed a little bit, especially with people's perception and attitude towards people with disabilities.
I think so too. I think so. You look at the way, well, thanks to the ADA, people with disabilities, regardless of what our disabilities are a lot more active in the community because we have a chance to be active. The playing field is much more level now. Okay, we can be active participants in society.
Right. Well, think about it. So people think the ADA in 1990, that's the year we mentioned, July 26, 1990, that it just kind of dropped out of thin air.
Right.
You have to remember, that was something, the wheels were in motion. Civil rights movement back in 1964 kind of led the way for the Section 504 in 1973, and ever since then, it's just been advocacy and hard work and people getting arrested or doing whatever they had to do to make sure that they got to this point where people like us and in the future people with disabilities would have the rights to become productive members of society, to go to school, to access the community, to do everything that we do today. One of the things that I've spoken with some other people is we need us as, I don't want to say we're old.
We are old.
Us as getting older people Need to get the younger community of people with disabilities involved in advocacy and making sure that the momentum that has gotten here doesn't slow down.
Sure, because there is no enforcement arm of the ADA. We have to be self-advocates. You know, if we see a place that's in violation of the law, okay, nothing's going to happen unless we make an issue of it. Right. And tell the person who's in charge, hey, you're in violation of this, this, and this, and this is what has to happen.
Right, that's what advocacy is about, you know.
Sure.
You know, and if they don't do it, then we have to, you know, go to the Department of Justice or go to somebody else and try to make waves and make things happen. You know, a lot of times you're looked at as a bad guy, but you have to fight. We have to fight for ourselves.
Sure.
Nothing's going to get done. They're not going to just, you know, kowtow to us and do what we want at all times.
Right. You look at people like Rosa Parks. Okay, I'm sure not everybody looked at her as a hero. They looked at her as a troublemaker. You know, what difference does it make where you sit on the bus, blah, 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 that kind of thing. You can't worry about stuff like that.
Right.
You know, you have to, and for a lot of people with disabilities, it can be an intimidating process. So they'd rather just keep their mouth shut and not say anything, but nothing's going to change that way.
Exactly.
People have to remember that when the ADA was passed and as the momentum grew and big business knew that this was going to become a reality, they weren't necessarily happy about it. Okay.
Well, I think they tried to stop it from being passed.
Well, sure they did. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because they saw, oh, this avalanche of lawsuits that's going to happen and these businesses were going to go bankrupt and all this money they'd have to spend. Well, the avalanche of lawsuits never really happened. Okay, so that was sort of a mythical thing. So there were some concessions that had to be made to big business prior to the signing of the ADA. Right. But the bottom line is it became law and it became our civil rights.
Exactly. That's what people don't read. People always think civil rights and you think 1964. You don't
Sure.
People with disabilities having the ADA passed really is civil rights for people with disabilities. And like Rob said, he was injured in 1981.
Yeah.
My accident was in 1990, right at I was in the hospital in the rehab center when the law was passed in the summer of 1990. Even when I got out, that didn't mean much because things weren't done. I mean, there was still no accessibility in 1990 when I got out. So it's just been an ongoing process, and I think things have gotten better over 30 years.
Oh, they have, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think what big business, to use that term, is realizing is that people with disabilities spend money too. Okay, we're good for the economy if we get involved. Okay. We go grocery shopping, we go out to eat, we do all these things. So our money's as good as anybody's. So why not, have us be involved?
We're just because you're sitting in a wheelchair doesn't mean you're not educated,
right,
or you're not able to work, or you're not able to access the community, to go shopping, to own a home, to get married, to have children, to do all these different things.
Sure.
It just means that we get around differently.
Right.
That's really all it is. And the fact that now things are accessible and easier just makes it for lack of a better word, accessible.
Sure. And like I said before, there were many companies, businesses who fought the ADA tooth and nail. I can remember Greyhound bus lines. 12 years it took them to start to put lifts on their buses. Wow. And I remember being in Harrisburg blocking the buses when I was a member of ADAPT. Wow. We were protesting, and I remember blocking a bus.
So you were one of those guys looking to get arrested?
Actually, no, because at the time I was working for CRI.
No.
And I was worried about losing my job. So I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to get arrested. But I remember the cops coming and, who's in charge of this and that, But a lot of people, I remember people getting lifted out of their chairs and put into cop cars. Definitely, man. It happened.
Crazy to me to think that stuff actually happened.
But it's not really surprising because, many people in society will say, well, we've got to get these people with disabilities. All they do is sit around and collect SSI, and, we got to get them active and everything, and I'm paying for them to be, that kind of thing. Yet they don't really want to see us in society.
Right.
So they kind of want to have it both ways.
And that's not possible.
No, it isn't. So what the ADA has done is leveled the playing field in education, employment, commerce, transportation, all these things. So it's allowed us to be visible in the community, and that can only be a good thing.
Amen. I think that's, I like to get out as much as I can.
Sure, me too. Oh, yeah, man.
So being visible is good.
Absolutely.
I think when I first started getting out, embarrassment is not the right word. I was skeptical about how people would feel about me.
Self-conscious.
Yeah. How are people looking at me? What names might they be saying? Now here I am 32 years after my accident, I could care less what people say about me.
Well, it
is what it is. I have a great support system. I've got a great family, friends, etc. And I do everything. We were just talking a little while ago about going to Las Vegas and the place we like in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
So I still go do all those things that we hope to do, and I think everybody's capable of doing that.
Well, Vegas doesn't care because as long as you have money, they'll accommodate you. So they're cool, man. Yeah.
And for some reason, every time I go to Vegas, I come home with a lot less money.
Well, that's
one of these times.
Hey, but it's funny, about being stared at and things. In order to know someone's staring at you, you have to be looking at them. So who's staring at who?
That's a great point.
I was thinking.
I've always said, I don't really mind when young kids look because they're inquisitive, and curious.
Sure.
The elderly sometimes. I'm not worried about it. It's people that are in our age bracket that are staring that I'm just like, come on, seriously?
Yeah. Well, when I lived in Tulio Towers, there was a lady named Josephine, and I would fly down this ramp real fast, and every time I flew down, she'd go, wee! And it was like, after a while, it's like, come on, that's just not appropriate,
right.
And so I had to talk to her, and I don't know if she got it or she didn't, but I had to, it's like, so.
Yeah, like I said, educating people, that's the key to.
That's right, yeah.
And I think that's something that's going to go on and on and on as we move forward.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, man, I think that's a great start. We want to, I said to Rob before we started this, I'm pretty sure as much as he talks, as much as I talk, we could have stayed here till 5 o'clock. We could probably still do that. Stay until 5 o'clock and just talk about things that we've experienced over the years. I think that's one of the beauties of doing this. We can bring up stuff that we've experienced in any one of these things. So we're hoping to do this on a monthly basis for now. Maybe eventually we get to every 2 weeks if it becomes something we want to do.
And I think it's important to make people realize that we're also going to have guests at some point too.
Absolutely.
So they can offer their expertise, their opinions, their perceptions. Yeah.
I would love to have some state legislators come in, the mayor come in.
Absolutely.
Other folks, maybe people from the board of directors here at CRI. Other people who use chairs, or like Rob mentioned, somebody from the blind community or the so somebody else who is able to bring something to the table.
Yeah, because obviously not every disability group has the same concerns.
Absolutely.
Okay, what may be concerning for us in terms of accessibility wouldn't be a problem for someone who's deaf or blind. Okay, that kind of thing. So we do need to, get different perspectives and different opinions.
Right on. All right. Well, I think it's a pretty good first episode. So let's keep this ball rolling, and let's keep these wheels rolling. How about that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So hey, signing off. Everybody have a great weekend, and see you next month.
All right.
All right.